Well, I'm Danielle Lange, and I was born and raised and educated in Montreal. You know, I grew up in the West Island, and I went to McGill, and being educated in both language means I straddle both communities. Connections promotes the health, social well-being, and vitality of the English-speaking community in the Outaouais. Through empowerment and through collaboration with other organizations. So I've been the executive director since 2010. We work on different fronts. So one obviously is working directly with the community. So that we provide activities for all age groups. So play group to seniors activities, legal information sessions, and our activities are provided in the communities themselves. So we go to the community and provide the activities.
So I've got a good story there. Heritage hockey, I'll probably put the move, then just a little speed brief. Heritage hockey, I'll jump
How long
here.
has Peggy Bruin though? My name is Nikki Mantell. I am the publisher of the Lowdown to Hell and Back News, the local English newspaper for the Gatineau Hills region in the Outaouais. I've been doing this for, oh my gosh, I think about 27 years now. My parents started this newspaper back in 1973, and I was involved right from the get-go, like right as a child. I did all sorts of things for the paper, and so I grew up in the business, yeah.
Why did your dad name it the Lowdown? It's like a play on words or something, right?
Yes, it is a triple entendre. My dad loved puns. He laughed so hard when he came up with that name. He nearly drove off the road. He was laughing so hard. So yeah,
Awesome.
people love it.
We've been called the glue that holds the community together. We are the only local newspaper that covers the Gatineau Hills and only the Gatineau Hills. We're certainly the only, I think right now we're the only media that's covering it in English. Really, my identity and my feeling of being an English-speaking Quebecer is very much tied in running the local Anglophone, the English-speaking newspaper in my region of Quebec.
Got any more good ones?
Boom, boom. What's our joke for this week?
What kind of music should you listen to when jumping in puddles?
I don't know.
Dua Lipa. So my name is Trevor Greenway, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Lowdown to Hull and Back newspaper in Wakefield, and I live in Micham, Quebec, which is just 10 minutes north of here. I feel welcome here. It's an Anglo town. When I moved here, I didn't speak any French. I'm still learning French. Wakefield was very, very welcoming to me when I first moved here, and it was just a place that kind of spoke to me.
There you go. You're ready to rock and roll. Yeah. Yes, indeed. We're just having fun, enjoying life.
So who's got
but at any rate,
who's got the better philosophy?
Yeah, well, I say to the Pilates people, I say, you know what? You'll be here in a few years.
I will be.
Hi, I'm Sally Swan, and I live here in Wakefield, not very far from the community center. I'm a community activist for sure. I've played a big role in the development of Wakefield. I was president of the Hospital Foundation. I was president of the library, helped to establish those two organizations.
It was through Paul Brown, through Connection.
This group is called the Wakefield Golden Age Club, and it's primarily developed in order to enhance the life of the senior population here in Wakefield. 3 diamonds. Our activities are particularly for the Anglophones. We have a very strong English population here in Wakefield. We provide parties at specific times of the year which allow the individuals to get together and socialize. And they depend on us for letting them know what is going on in their churches, in the community, what kinds of things are going on at the municipal level. Is there a road closure that might affect them? Is there a health issue? Is our hospital in danger? And it is a very key organization to keep the seniors in particular well informed.
My name is Judith Ann King Matheson. When I first came here, I became a member of Aylmer United Church. So my affiliation many, many years ago started with working in palliative care and spiritual care ministry. And that led to having connections with many different groups here that, again, are significant to unilingual Anglophones here, getting the support they need to not just receive from the community, but to give to the community.
My name is Paul Tonkin, and I'm originally from a small town in northern Ontario and have traveled coast to coast and arrived here in the Ottawa Valley in about 1984. I had my own aerospace business and I looked after NATO. Had the idea to have a way of getting everybody together and working together. So all the nations, whenever they went to a theater of operation, they would share resources. Having worked with the NATO countries in working closely together, I decided to bring that here to the community in Aylmer. So we started a thing, kind of called it Community Cafe. So the first thing we did was getting all the churches to work closely together and share their news. Then we incorporated businesses, we incorporated everybody within the community.
All in on the rugby. She said there were about 30 girls showed up to the info day. So,
Yes, that's true.
kind of like Prince Edward County, right? Yeah.
My name is Greg Graham, and I'm from beautiful Bristol, Quebec. I'm a sixth generation Graham from this area, so we've been here since the 1840s. I'm a farmer. I have a small apple farm. I'm a businessman. I'm one of the owners here of Coronation Hall Cider Mills. I work as the executive director of the Western Quebec Literacy Council, a nonprofit based here in Western Quebec. I'm a municipal councillor here in the municipality of Bristol, and I'm a school board commissioner for the Western Quebec School Board. The Western Quebec Literacy Council's mandate and mission is for English speakers. Family literacy is a big part of our mandate right now, trying to help out families create a culture of literacy, getting the family reading. Oh, and I'm also the president of the Pontiac Community Players, the theatre group here in the Pontiac, which is the larger area surrounding Bristol. We're a non-profit theatre organization. We've existed for some time, since about 2000. And then in 2010, shortly after I'd started Coronation Hall here, I had a dream of, wouldn't it be great to do some theatre here in this old dance hall? By putting on theatre, we're showing people that we're vibrant as a community. I always say community theatre doesn't make a community vibrant, but it's a sign of a vibrant community.
I think one of the biggest mistruths about this region is that we're in a bubble. We're in that Ottawa bubble, right? Like the Outaouais region has consistently been underfunded in healthcare for decades. There was an IRIS report 5 years ago that said that Outaouais is $200 million short of healthcare funding compared to other regions of Quebec. That number is down a little bit. It's about 180 million. I think there's close to 10,000 people in the Descolines region without a family doctor. More and more Ontario doctors are telling their Quebec patients they can no longer see them. There's communication issues, there's resource issues, and so now they're being told, no, you can no longer go there for services. So that bubble, it has really, really eroded, and it's not here at all. But there's this idea that it is, and we're protected because we're so close to Ottawa. And I think that's the biggest mistruth, and that's why we don't get the funding that we really need here.
Health and social services is a really big one. So, historically they used to go to Ottawa, quite frequently. It was just automatic. One, it's in English, and two, the perception that services are better. over the years, that door of accessibility to services in Ontario has decreased a lot because Ontario has its own issues with, they're serving their own population and let alone serving somebody from another province.
One of the pressing issues here in the Pontiac is the state of our regional hospital. It's a fantastic hospital. I mean, my eldest son was born there, but my remaining 4 children were all born in Ottawa. We had to travel an hour and a half each way to have them, and because they had closed our obstetrics wing, and we don't really know why. Like, why wasn't this funded? Over in Ontario, you get paid way more than you do in Quebec. It's at least 20% more, just as a base estimate. And so we lose a lot of employees and people going over there. And the government brought out a program to raise the money for some of the technicians who worked in the hospital, medical imaging and radiology and all these really important jobs. And they applied it to every hospital in Western Quebec, but not Shawville. Why not us? Is it because we're an English-speaking community? I don't know. And we fought and we raised money. And I believe just recently, a day or two ago, the government finally accepted to raise their salary to the level of everyone else. But what was the point of that? When people say that myth that, because Ontario's there, you don't need as many services, I think, do you have no pride as a province that we can't supply that, It's funny, when you know a fair bit about history for the region like I do, you see that on both sides of the Ottawa River, we were very parallel communities, settled in much the same way, much the same ethnic makeup, much the same industries. And yet here we are in 2024, and in the Pontiac, my MRC, my county on this side, we have about 14,000 people. And in Renfrew County on the other side, they have about 120,000. 9 times, almost 10 times the population. What happened? What's going on? Why are we a remote region and they are not? Because I think Ontario doesn't treat it as a remote region.
I think a big part of what we do is the information and referral for people who are looking to access services and even help to navigate the system. Access to services today, regardless of which services we're talking about, they're all difficult to access in the first place. There's an added barrier when it comes to language when you're trying to seek help, whatever kind of help that is. Whether you need food, whether you need housing, whether you need transportation to medical appointments.
So transportation affects everyone. A lot of the elder population don't have the transportation to be able to go to their doctor's appointments and get medical attention specifically for them because that service is no longer offered in their area. So they're actually building a lot of condos, apartments, and having a lot of elders come to the area without having the resources. And they don't have the transportation infrastructure to be able to migrate around to other activities, to community events and things like that. So a lot of the senior population isolate themselves. And that is a real problem.
Illness comes from separation of connection with another human being. Loneliness for all ages is causing some significant health challenges. I would say when people are under stress, they'll always revert to their mother tongue. But at the age of a certain age, you're beginning to get ready to leave to go to your heavenly place on the other side. And many people, when they're in crises, the first thing they'll do is they'll go back to their mother tongue. So to expect people when they're older to learn a second language is not realistic.
If a doctor doesn't understand what a patient's symptoms are in their language, if there isn't good communication, the outcome is much poorer.
So when we look at elders, we sometimes think, well, they're having memory loss. But many times it's simply emotional stress and disconnection from other people.
So we are doing this, c'est mon histoire. It's my story. But we're just going to have you start maybe with a few reflections on your childhood. You can write reflections today, okay, just to inspire yourself to start writing about yourself and the wonderful adventure, the wonderful journey that your life has presented to you.
We've created this It's My Story, C'est Mon Histoire. It's a grant for $8,000, and we plan to use every penny of it to encourage our senior population to write their stories, to translate some of them in French, to encourage, we have 2 or 3 francophones that will also be writing leur histoire. Their families have lived here for over 100 years, and it is important for us to record our stories so that we see where we fit into the fabric of Quebec, and that we have that our farms and our stories and our jobs and our schooling and our education has really added to the life of Wakefield and beyond.
Over the last few years, I think some of the biggest issues pressing our residents in this area has been Bill 96. I think English residents and English speakers in the province, I think, really took offense to that. It was almost like an assault on the culture, on the language. And we just, tried to cover every aspect of this. How is it going to affect education? How is it going to affect healthcare? How is it going to affect investments and business?
It's getting increasingly more difficult to access information in English in Quebec. Bill 96 has made it very restricted for municipalities. They cannot distribute, unless they're designated bilingual, they cannot distribute really important information in English. It's as simple as 2 years ago, they could get the garbage and recycling schedule in English, and now they can't. More important things about, zoning changes, if a development's going up by their house, they're not going to get that information in English. And despite what the provincial government says, what's actually happening on the ground is not what they're promising.
The community has been told by the Premier that, access to health services is not going to be touched by Bill 96. However, with the implementation, the directive haven't been clear. And they haven't been clear to those working in the system, nor to the community as well. So, and I've had a few, instances where people have said, well, I tried to get a service, but the person said, well, it's Bill 96, we don't have to provide services in English. And that's totally false.
I think that Bill 96 has been a disaster because as a lot of kids are getting ready for CEGEP, they have to take all these extra French classes.
So what that does is it sort of takes away their ability to focus on other areas that they may have been interested in. So a lot of these kids haven't been schooled like Francophone kids have been in the past, and all of a sudden they have to take this really big, ministry exam to graduate CEGEP. And so a lot of them are sort of getting scared and either dropping out, not pursuing higher education, or going elsewhere.
The attacks on the CEGEPs have been so damaging. My children want to study different things. Some of my older children are getting ready. Will they go to CEGEP in Quebec? There are other colleges in Ontario where you can simply study what you want. You'll be paid more and you'll be ready to work at a younger age. We used to have a small satellite school from the local CEGEP here, giving 1-year adult education programs that has closed down because they couldn't fold the French into it. They couldn't make it work. Now, that wouldn't be for my children in particular, but it has an effect. And I think they forget that a lot of people don't have to choose CEGEP. And I don't know if I could recommend it.
One of my concerns is that as they're cutting back in high schools, the opportunity for Anglos or other multilingual students, as those opportunities are already being decreased at the high school level, and then consequently, they don't have the opportunity to learn French well enough to continue then to go to a French CEGEP. I came as a French teacher, and I learned French in the United States and loved the language, loved the culture. My fear right now is that my grandson will not be able to enjoy both languages as much as I have.
I grew up in Quebec. I went through the CEGEP system. I'm bilingual. I have kids who I am putting through French immersion programs to make them as French as to make them learn as much French as possible. So Bill 40 has the potential to really be damaging to the education for Anglophones, the potential for students to develop and progress. One is that they are centralizing school boards into school centers, run essentially by, administrators in Quebec City and not on the ground locally. For Anglophone institutions, that the ability to run your own school boards and schools is protected under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Schools are of vital and crucial importance to any community. So when this is put in jeopardy and we're in the sense that we're pushed out of the process and you don't have any control over those things, you lose your sense of identity, your sense of community is eroded.
There is an exodus of the English-speaking community moving to Ontario because of the lack of resources for them here.
This has a deep impact for Anglophones, particularly unilingual Anglophones like myself.
I don't think the rest of Quebec really quite understands the uniqueness of our area.
Because there's never a law that's made that lifts us up. There's only a law to smack us down. Has there ever been a law? Has the province ever come in to help?
So we feel more so now than ever, it is crucial that our newspaper not only exists, but works really hard to get that information out in a language that the population can understand, and then go further and really get into the issues and answer the why questions to things that are happening in the community.
Starting a farm, starting a business is an act of activism. It's an act of defiance. It's an act of committing to a community. There's something very rewarding and good for your soul about just tending a garden. You literally and figuratively put down roots, and you help to make that community yours.
I'm not going to throw in the towel anytime soon. I can't do it. But it's a hard question that a lot of us are asking ourselves.
Your turn. Okay.
We're not prepared to leave, but rather try to come up with solutions to integrate and to develop a more open attitude toward language.
I think it's so important for us to continue to tell these stories. We are the voice of the English in this region. We're the only place to get local news here, and this is why I'm gonna stay, because it's really important for me to continue this fight. And we understand how important it is to protect French. We don't want to lose that culture. That's part of what's beautiful about Quebec. But when you start stifling other groups, it tells you you're not welcome here.
But we really do all want to see Quebec, Francophones in Quebec thrive. It's really important. It's what makes Quebec special and unique and wonderful, quite honestly. And the French language is a wonderful language that I speak.
I think our other asset is working with our partners, our Francophone partners, who have always been so welcoming and so open to having us on their committees, on wanting to hear about what are the challenges, on how we can work together. We have to work together. We don't have a choice.
There's a rich history, a rich heritage, even in Aylmer, of how much Anglophones and other people have contributed with working with French Canadians, all of them working together. And I think this is something we can return to the simplicity of community and family.
I mean, it's a big job and it's very expensive. It'll likely never happen. But I think if we really truly want linguistic harmony across the country, we all need to embrace the French language and we all need to protect it.
C'est la vie, monsieur, surtout au Québec.